All right, guys, in this note set, I'm going to be talking about complex patterns of inheritance. All right, so the first, let's talk about non-Mendelian genetics. Up until this point, we have been talking about Mendelian genetics, and by that we mean they show dominance, recessiveness, um, and it's very simple, right? But some alleles are neither dominant nor recessive, and many have traits that are controlled by multiple alleles or multiple genes. So there are some exceptions to Mendel's laws, and those are incomplete dominance, codominance, multiple alleles, and polygenic traits. All right. So for incomplete dominance, the heterozygous phenotype is somewhere between the two homozygous phenotypes. So neither is completely dominant over the next. My preference for how you represent this is by doing both letters of the same case and then using a prime to indicate that one is different. All right. Of course, you might see other ways of representing this, but for me, this keeps it clear what is what. So if you had two pink flowers, right, and they were crossed with each other to produce offspring, you would end up with R from there, R from there. So that would be red. Um, this R goes there, that one goes there. So that would be pink, and this one would be pink as well. But in this box, you would have R prime, and that would give you white. So first, you would have to designate that R is equal to red and that R prime is equal to white. And you would know that because you're given R prime, and you got pink. All right. So in this one, you have a white flower mating with a red, and you can see in this one, all the offsprings are R prime, R prime. Therefore, all the offsprings are pink. All right. So here's a little bit of practice. Red flowered plant is crossed with a white flowered plant. All right. So we've got red and we've got white, and it doesn't really matter where you put what, like where you put the red or the white. What matters is that you're writing it consistently and you are showing it the way it should be shown. So let's do R prime, R prime, R prime, R, R prime. And I typically like to write it the same way because you can see, like, if you did R prime, and R prime, R, it just looks like two different things. All right, so you want to write it the same way all the time. So when you're done with this, you look at the genotypes, you look at the phenotypes, and you can see that all the offspring are R prime, which means all are pink. So again, this is the genotypic, this is the phenotypic, all right? Next one is codominance. Codominance is when both traits are fully and separately expressed. So you do the red and the white flowers, but instead of making pink, they make red and white. And this tells you that, hey, this is a codominant situation. All right. And the typical example for codominance is blood type. Notice there's some people that are A, there's some people that are B, and there's some people that are blood type AB. So blood type is actually a little bit of everything, right? You've got codominance going on with this expression here. You've got dominance and recessiveness going on with these, right? So a little bit of Mendelian, but also a little bit of non-Mendelian. All right, so my preferred way for you to represent the genotypes for codominant alleles is write in both letters in uppercase and then just put in a superscript at the top to show that, hey, this one gives you blue, this one gives you white, and this gives you blue and white, or whatever color that is. All right. Um, so let's practice. right? If a person with blood type AB mates with a person with type O blood, what is the probability that their child will have type B blood? So I'm just going to do this one so you can see how it looks. All right, so a person with type AB mates with a person with type O. All right, and you could always look back at the chart that we looked at before. I probably should go back to that, but that's IA and IB and IA, IB, I. All right, and this gives us 50% A, 50% B. All right. What is the question? What is the probability that their child will have type B blood? And that is 50%. Codominant again. So I just did that first one for you. So I want you to do this one on your own and I'll look at it in class. All right. So you know how to write it. Yeah. So I'm going to skip over this one. So multiple alleles is when you have more than 2 alleles for one gene. So again, for example, blood types, like I said, it was Mendelian, non-Mendelian, and yeah. So blood type, you've got A and you've got B, and you've got lowercase I, right? Fur color in rabbits is another thing that exhibits multiple alleles, right? You could be white and brown. You could be black, brown, and white for some rabbits. Polygenic inheritance, this is when a trait is produced by 2 or more genes. So they usually show a range of a range in phenotype. For example, skin color, height, weight, and all of those things. So it's saying, so the difference between polygenic and multiple alleles is that for multiple alleles, right, you'll have your one pair of alleles, right? But for polygenic, you will have more than one genes taking care of that trait, if that makes sense. And then linked genes, they are physically located on the same chromosome, so they're probably very close together. So a lot of times you notice that there are some traits that kind of go together. Okay, you've got blue eyes and blonde hair or something like that. And that is probably because they are physically close together, right? Oh, that's my example. All right, next. So sex-linked traits, again, remember that we all have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Those first 22 are your autosomes, and that last pair is your sex chromosomes, right? Females, we are XX, males are XY. The X chromosome is physically bigger, right? As you can see, here's a Y, here's a X. The X chromosome is literally and physically bigger than the Y chromosome. And so it has more genes, right? I like to think of it like, okay, that's what an X looks like, and a Y pretty much looks like not that much of that, not all of that. So even if you were looking at the literal letters, you would see that one letter just literally takes up more space than the next, right? So sex-linked problems look something like this. You represent the situation by using the genes, right? By using the X and Y chromosomes. So this is the female here, this is the male, right? There are genes that are on the X that are literally not on the Y. They're just not on the Y, all right? And so if a gene is on the X, then you only show it on the X. You don't put anything on the Y. And then it just becomes a regular Punnett square like it was before. And you put all of these together. You've got that goes there, and so on. And what you notice with sex-linked traits is that females are usually carriers. They're usually not affected, right? So if you look at this one, of the females, you can see that 1 out of 2 of those females, right? Just looking at only females, are carriers. This one is a carrier. Then you notice that the other one is normal. So half of your females are going to be carriers, half are going to be normal. And then for your males, you notice that there are no carriers, right? You either have it if it's a recessive disorder, or you don't in this case if it's dominant. So males are either affected or they're not affected. So let's practice with that. So cross a woman who is a carrier for color blindness with a man who is normal. So color blindness, I'm going to use B because I don't like using C. So I'm going to say the female is a carrier, and the male is normal, right? So I'm going to make those babies, all right? XB, XB. Y, X, B, Y. So what we find here is in terms of genotypes, right? We have XB, XB. We've got one of that. So we've got one. Then we've got one female who is XB, X, lowercase b. One male who is XB, Y. One, did I make an error? Yes, I did. If you're following, you'll see that I did this one wrong. This should be uppercase B. All right. So now we've got one male who is that. He is normal. All right. All right. So make sure you fix this. This should be, I don't know if I can erase it. All right. So polygenic traits are traits that are controlled by the interaction of more than one gene. Again, these genes tend to show great variation, like skin color, hair color, weight, height. All right, any kind of gene that you see is shown on that sort of a spectrum is probably a polygenic trait, some kind of trait. All right, and here's what that looks like. We can go even darker, we can go even lighter. So if two parents have a medium skin tone, right, because you have all these different genes that are controlling skin color, their kids could be any combination of this. Like they could have gotten two uppercase A's. First of all, they could have gotten, let's say they got two uppercase A's, two uppercase B's, two uppercase C's, and then they would be at one end. Or they could be on the next end of that where they got all lowercase letters because both parents have that, right? There should be B, right? As well as they could get any combination of that, right? They could get two uppercase A's, two lowercase B's, one uppercase C, one lowercase c, and you find that that is why skin color and things like that show so much of a range. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to get into pedigrees on the next PowerPoint because I'm at 13 minutes. I'm going to stop here. Make sure you copy your notes, and I'll see you guys in class.